Stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge, stick it in the fridge. Yo, when I'm fishing, let's keep one thing clear. The bait's over there, the brew's right here. I like cold beverage, yeah. I like cold beverage, yeah. I like cold beverage, yeah. I'm kinda thirsty.
It's Bobby M back for a quick video again, and I wanted to show you today two different methods of measuring gravity in your beer, whether it's pre-fermented original gravity or post-fermented final gravity. The two different methods are going to be the traditional glass hydrometer, which is just a tube of glass that floats at various heights in your sample. We're also going to use a thermometer just to test our sample temp so that we can adjust for temperature. We have a regular turkey baster that we're going to pull the sample out of the carboy with. And here's the other method, the refractometer, which measures the density of the wort using light instead of the weight of the tube and how high it floats. And you can purchase this on eBay for about $30 shipped, or if not a little bit more. But when you compare how many times you're going to replace a glass hydrometer that easily rolls off of your work surface, you know, you only have to go through 2 or 3 of those to realize the benefits of spending a little bit more money up front rather than over time. And you'll also note that I have a small pipette here, and this is really all you need to gain a sample using a refractometer is a couple of drops of your wort or beer versus probably about 3 ounces that it takes to fill up the test tube here. Now before we go sticking this turkey baster into the carboy, we want to make sure that it's completely sanitized. I mixed up a very concentrated solution of iodophor here, which is why it's so dark. But you can see that I'm going to make sure that the entire tube gets filled and that the tube gets sanitized all the way up to the top. And you want to take this out, turn it upside down, and shake it to make sure that that bulb is completely sanitized inside as well. And I've rinsed this out with scorching hot water also from the sink, so just make sure it's fully sanitized. I'm not sanitizing my test tube per se, but it's a nice easy way to hold a very small amount of sanitizer and keep the outside of this turkey baster tube. With my completely sanitized turkey baster going into the carboy, you want to try not to drip any of the sample back into the carboy, so you just quickly slope it in. And I know from experience how high I have to fill this test tube to get an accurate reading, and it's about 2 inches from the top. I'm probably going to dump a little bit, but again, you don't want to, if you take too much out, you don't want to dump it back into the carboy, just in case there was something inside here. Carefully put my carboy cap back on. First thing we have to do is take the temperature of the sample, because the hydrometer is always calibrated to a specific temperature. I think mine is 59 degrees, and the wort or the beer sample is 65. So just take note of that. And then we switch over to our hydrometer. Float it and give it a spin to dislodge any carbon dioxide bubbles that might be there. And I can tell right now sure it's too blurry to see, but it's reading 1020 right now. Well, again, the hydrometer is a very easy to use device, and it's relatively cheap, but let's just take a quick look at how much wort I needed to collect here to get an accurate sample. Alright, this glass has a 2-ounce calibration line on it, and there's 2 ounces. That's got to be at least 3 ounces of beer, and if you were anal and you wanted to take a bunch of samples, you can see you're going through 3 ounces every time. Alright, so I just wanted to point out how little wort or beer the refractometer requires. We literally fill to pipe it with. That is way more than we needed, but just to give you an example, just drop that sample on there. Alright, so that was all the sample we needed to get on there. You give it about 20 seconds for the temperature compensation to equalize there. And this one has a neat LED built in so that if you're in a low light situation you can actually see what your reading is. I know it's going to be difficult to see through this lens, but maybe you can see it a little bit here. Now that scale is in bricks, B-R-I-X, and you can see it's reading about 9 bricks. The camera's not doing too well with the bright light inside, but it actually looks great to the eye. To convert bricks to specific gravity, you have to multiply by 4. So we're reading about 9 bricks. So that's about 1036 in specific gravity. And you're probably wondering why the refractometer is reading 1036 when we just measured 1020 with the hydrometer. Well, it's getting skewed by the alcohol that's in the beer. This original gravity was 1064, so you can imagine there's quite a bit of alcohol already accumulated, and it's throwing off the refractometer. But there is a way to compensate for that using certain formulas, and morebeer.com has created a spreadsheet.
Okay, so here's the spreadsheet that's available on the More Beer website, and you can see that it's asking for an input. You must provide it with your original gravity so that it has context to know how to compensate for any alcohol that might be present in your beer sample. And I have written down in my notes that my original gravity in bricks was 16.5 bricks, and once I input that, you'll see that it automatically converts to specific gravity, which is 1064. And once it has that input, you can now enter your current refractometer reading at some lower gravity. And again, I'm close to my final gravity after 6 days, if not there already. And I just noted that I have 9.5 bricks. And once I input that, you'll see the alcohol corrected or compensated specific gravity is 1020, which we did verify with the hydrometer. So, you know, I've done this a few times now, and I'm wholly confident that this correction algorithm is accurate. Just to give you an idea of the formula that's involved, it's ridiculous. You wouldn't want to calculate that out by hand or even on a calculator every time you needed to do this. So having this spreadsheet handy is very nice. And you know, maybe some software already has this kind of algorithm installed in its utilities, but Beer Tools Pro doesn't, as far as I know.
So again, the benefit of the refractometer is the very small sample amount that you need. You know, not even that much is required in a pipette. So if you're doing an all-grain batch and you want to frequently check the gravity of your runnings, this is a really good tool to do that with. And if there's no alcohol present in the sample, you don't have to do any conversions. You can just multiply your bricks reading by 4 and get your gravity. But using a hydrometer, you have to collect about 3 ounces of wort or beer. And if you were doing this pre-boil, it doesn't matter. You'd really just dump this back in the kettle. But of course, if it's in the fermenter, you don't want to dump this back in. But the benefit of taking this sample is now I have 3 ounces of beer that I get to sample, and that's certainly commendable as well.
I like to go every day.